Step into the sizzling world of portable pampering, where the heat is on the move and the relaxation knows no bounds. If you've ever dreamed of taking a steamy vacation without leaving your backyard, or even your living room, then you're in for a treat. We're about to dive into the hottest topic in relaxation tech, the portable sauna. So grab your towels, put on your imaginary sunglasses, and get ready to sweat it out in style as we embark on a journey to discover the most sizzling on-the-go spa experience you've ever encountered. Welcome to the world of portable saunas, where sweating has never felt so good. Hey guys, it's Kurt from the Kurt Locker. I'm in my backyard instead of in the garage today, and I'm going to be covering the sweat tent. I'm going to be talking about what the sweat tent is, materials and construction, the usability, as well as some of my notes from using it the last 8 months, a price, and of course, leaving you with my final thoughts. So first and foremost, what is the sweat tent? It is a relatively inexpensive mobile pop-up solution for taking a sauna experience and basically making it more affordable, portable, as well as just kind of easier to approach. This particular one has a wood-fired stove. It's 66 inches wide at the base, so 66-inch square from end to end, and then it gets up to 76 inches because of the pop-up style design. It consists of a set of 3 windows, 3 triangular windows here on the corner, as well as a small triangular window here on this particular side. It has 2 access points that are zipper enclosed, just like a tent. Now on the inside, I'll grab the camera and bring you in. Some other accessories that I have with mine are the wooden bench that comes from Sweat Tent, as well as their version 1 bucket and ladle. Their bucket design has changed, as well as the Sweat Tent fire poker of excellence. Additionally, on top of the stove, it does come with some rocks. You're going to get a box full of rocks, and that goes in here on the top and heats it up so that you can pour water over the rocks to give you that kind of like sauna steam-like experience. So that's kind of what the sweat tent is. Again, this is kind of a entry style tent, or if you're someone who has to move frequently, maybe someone that doesn't have a dedicated space that they can actually set up like a wood barrel type sauna, or you just don't want to spend the $8,000 or whatever it costs to actually get one of those saunas. Maybe you don't know if you're going to be into it. This could be maybe something to consider getting. So now that I've kind of defined what the sweat tent is, I want to talk a little bit about the materials, the construction. So the main structure of this is provided through these fiberglass poles. These fiberglass poles have 4 per hub, and there's a total of 5 hubs. There's 1 on each wall, as one is 1 up on the ceiling. Fiberglass poles run into a steel hub, and there's a little ball that's behind this plate. So if the fiberglass poles ever break on you, all that you have to do is loosen this nut, take the pole completely out, put the new pole in, and it's actually really simple to swap out. The bench that I'm sitting on is a cedar bench. It's actually stood up pretty well. I put it together out of the box right when I got it, and since then I haven't tightened any screws down. It does feel like a screwed together bench. Like, it definitely doesn't feel like the world's most quality bench ever, but it serves its purpose, and all of the screws are actually subsurface mounted, so they're like countersunk in so that you don't accidentally sit on one of those screws and burn yourself. All right, so the sweat tent itself has a view that offers about 270 degrees of viewing area. You have these 3 triangular windows that are located behind me, and that is what offers you most of your view. You also have this small window right here, which actually can come off. So if you need to vent or clean for whatever reason, you could always just completely take it off. All of the windows, to include the small one, actually have a small cover that go over the top of them. So for these ones, they're actually the size of the window, and they are that insulated material, just in case you might need any extra insulation, or for when you're storing it so that the windows don't become damaged. Now, it's important to know that this tent does not actually come with a floor. Instead, it comes with this 2-sided skirt. So you have the skirt that comes towards the inside, which I tend to use as like wood storage. So like I'll throw my wood on there to help keep the skirt down. And then that skirt extends to the outside. And on the outside, that's where I have it weighed down with all of these same river rocks that you see that I'm using as my floor. The last thing I want to talk about with the actual materials is that this is a 1.5 inch sewn insulation liner. Now it's 2 layers. It's made out of a special material that doesn't off gas at high temperatures, which is good considering that this is a sauna and there's a wood-fired stove sitting right here. Additionally, there's down material that's in between these two layers and sewn in place. That down material is also what keeps it from bunching up and reducing effectiveness. And in my opinion, it actually is a very effective tent. It holds heat very well. It leaves cold out very well. Again, I've been testing this for about 8 months. I live in Ohio, so I don't get the most extreme winters, but I have gotten the tent well over 200 degrees during the winter, and in my opinion, it does pretty well. Additionally, the tent itself is fairly robust for what it is. I had this tendency to think of it as kind of a delicate object, but I've had this tent survive multiple windstorms, to include one very small tornado that formed out in the neighborhood, and it sent this tent flying across the yard, but I was able to go out there and recover it. And something to keep in mind is during that same windstorm, another person in my neighborhood actually lost most of their roof. So it wasn't just a little storm, it was a very big storm. It did pull up the stakes and it did roll across the yard, but it didn't do any damage to the stove, the chimney, or the material itself. Something that's, in my opinion, pretty freaking cool considering that there was a tornado. All right, so this is the actual stove. This is the version 1 of the stove. The version 2 is a little bit different. As a note, mine did come, this rope material had actually fallen out of the door, and I wasn't sure what it was for. I was able to reach out to Sweat Tent, and they cleared up that it is actually kind of like a barrier, fireproof type material, so I was able to put it back in the door where it goes. Lighting this thing is super simple. Basically what I do is I take boxes from people's shopping addictions. I tear them up, throw them in the bottom, and then I'll chop up some smaller pieces of wood and I'll put those on top. I use a small torch lighter to light that up. And realistically speaking, when I come out here, starting from when I walk out the door with that torch lighter, my cardboard and my wood, in about 30 minutes or so, depending on the time of year, we're dealing with the tent that's at about 200 degrees. Now during the winter, it can take a little bit longer. I was getting outside and it was maybe 10 degrees outside, and it would take like 45 to 50 minutes to get to 200. But during the summer months, it takes like 20 minutes to get to 200 degrees in here. So it does heat up relatively quickly, which is good when you consider that you do have to fuel this thing with pieces of wood. The stove itself also has these louvers that you can adjust the flow of air feeding the fire. I really don't think it works all that well. I leave them just wide open. I've never had to throttle it down. I control the temperature in here basically by how much wood is on the fire at any given time. The stove is actually pretty efficient. For me to get over 200 degrees, I'm usually burning between 2 and 4 of these sticks right here to get it up to that temperature. Maybe a 5th or 6th if it's in the winter or if I'm doing some sort of extended sauna sessions. There are ways to shed heat, so you can open or close these vents. So you have a Velcro vent here at the bottom that you can open or close. If I'm being honest, I just leave this open all the time. And you also can choke off this upper vent from the outside. The other way, if you need to bring the heat down a little bit, so if you get a little overzealous, and there was one day I was in here and it was like 240 freaking degrees, and I just opened up the doors, got a little airflow for like 30 seconds, and it dropped it down to 215, and it was perfect for the rest of the sauna session. These are made out of fiberglass, and they are really resilient. Basically, it just uses the spring effect built into it. They last quite a while, but one of the things that Sweat Tent is going to start changing is they're actually going to start shipping the tents with a couple spares. I have broken 2 of my poles, but Sweat Tent immediately shipped me a box that had 2 brand new poles in it, so it really wasn't a concern. So I do want to talk real quick about the stove itself. Now, if you overstoke this fire, even though there's a direct heat deflector, I think it's like a spark arrestor that's inside of it, if you overstoke this fire, this chimney will get red hot, like absolutely red hot. This whole stove can actually get really red hot. There was a couple times I came out here to just kind of stress test it, and it gets super hot. Additionally, it's pretty normal, I think, but the side of the stove itself, it does tend to kind of warp over time. The overall structure is still definitely in place, but because of the portable nature of the stove, it's made out of a thinner gauge material, and as a result of that, it just kind of has warped with time. Don't ask me what these little thingies are for. I guess you can put stuff there. I just have them spread out. I don't know what these are for. Now, with the stove getting super hot, with the chair, so the stove's right here, the chair is right here. And if I'm sitting right here, one of the things I'll do is whatever leg is closest to the fire, I'll just throw a towel over the leg. And that kind of helps me get past that radiant heat that's hitting me in the leg. I reached out to Sweat Tent on that, and they said that was one of the design features that they took into account when they designed the second version of the stove. I don't have that version, but I imagine that if it still doesn't work that well, you could always just throw a towel over your leg like I do and get past that little mental barrier. So here we are outside the tent, and the skirt is underneath all of these rocks right here. With the design that I have it going on right now, it works really well. In past implementations of keeping that skirt down, I've taken like those tube sandbags and I've thrown those there. I've also stacked wood all the way around the skirt, going all the way around. During the winter, we got some snow for once in Ohio, and I was able to load the skirt up with a bunch of snow. In all of those cases, it did a pretty good job of keeping the wind from infiltrating from the bottom. But just something to keep in mind is it is a floorless sauna, so you're gonna get some air infiltration. However, it's not enough that it's something that I would be concerned about or something that would get in the way of making a purchase to something like this. All right, now for something I don't like the stakes that Sweat Tent said. They do have kind of this threading so that if you're going through ice or something, you could theoretically thread it into that. But this does not go deep enough or have the strength to actually hold this tent in place, in my experience. And the second thing I don't like is the cordage that they send to actually secure down. Now I pull off of this to secure down to the grem. And then what I did is I went to Home Depot and I bought a 8-inch galvanized like L piece that they use in concrete anchors. And I just threw that in the ground with a hammer, put my Dyneema line that quick adjusts. I'll post this down below as well. And that's what I use to keep the tent secured to the ground. This setup between the galvanized steel and this has never failed on me. I did this after the tornado came through, but we're having some 40-mile-an-hour winds on one day, and I was watching this thing through the window, and the Dyneema line plus that galvanized steel anchor did a great job at just securing that tent in place. It didn't budge an inch from its original. So the Sweat Tent retails for about $1,500, $1,499 to be exact. That doesn't include this other layer that I have over the top that Sweat Tent sells. However, right now, I was just on the website and it looks like it's listed at $13.99, which is $100 better. And I can do you another $100 better than that if you use code KurtLocker. I don't get any commission from that. It's just a discount code so that you guys can save another $100. That brings the price down to $1,299. $1,300 can sound like a lot of money, and in most cases it is, especially when you're considering from a garage gym kind of use case. $1,300 can buy you a lot of stuff. However, if you look at saunas and what it takes to get into having a home sauna, $1,300 is on the very low end of a sauna that can truly get you over that 200-degree threshold that is really way more effective. There are some cheaper infrared indoor-based ones, but they only get to like 160, 170 degrees. And I additionally don't like the idea of exposing my skin, my body to that much infrared radiation. It just hasn't been studied yet. There's no proven effectiveness to the infrared use case. If you get in PubMed and you search for it, you'll find very little results. In any of the results you do find show that infrared saunas are far less superior than a wood-fired sauna. Additionally, this one being at $1,300 allows you to move. So for you military people out there, if you are in the military and you know you have to move every couple years, this could be one way to have a sauna that goes with you regularly versus having a barrel type sauna that maybe you have to break down and rebuild every time, which is just an absolute nightmare. All right, so now for my final thoughts. In my opinion, the Sweat Tent is an amazing tool for getting into sauna applications. So if you're not sure if you can make the commitment, a couple times a week, really getting in the sauna 4 times a week is kind of the best return on investment as far as time. But if you don't know if you're gonna be able to do that, this might be one option that you might want to try before you spend like $5,000 or $8,000 on a larger, nicer sauna. It gets well over 200 degrees, and I personally have been in this at 240 degrees, which I wouldn't recommend. I don't think that that's safe, but it gets well over 200 degrees. One of my favorite things about it is that it breaks down, which makes it easy to transport. Now, I don't think people are going to be going backpacking with this. I don't know, maybe the Discovery deadlift guy might cart this thing off in the woods somewhere, but for most people, they're not going to be carting this thing off in the wood because it actually doesn't break down all that small. It's an actual really large size shelter. This is more of like a glamping adventure and less like a backpacking adventure as far as breakdown size. But if you're so motivated to do so, if you want to go somewhere where you have an absolutely amazing view and you want to go set this thing up so that you can go get that amazing view and that sauna experience all in one, go for it. This is the tool to do it with. Now, before I built this big rock base, I was moving my tent once a week so that I didn't kill the grass in any one area. That is something that you're gonna have to consider for your use case. One, do you have a level spot that's about, minimum 7 feet by 7 feet so that you can get the full footprint spread out and get it all weighed down. If you don't have that, then maybe this isn't for you. I'm on a slope backyard right now, and the only way I was able to get it set up down here was by getting a couple tons of river rock, and we did some landscaping, and then I took all the rest of it and I made this big level platform that the sauna tent sits on. That also allows me to get my drainage, and now I don't have any dead spots on the grass. It just looks a little bit more professional with the way I did it here. But that will come at a cost. So you're either gonna have to move it so you don't kill your grass, put it on some sort of concrete feature or some sort of brick feature. So bottom line, I really like my sweat tent. I am normally using it about 3-ish times a week. There have been a couple weeks where I just kind of fall off the wagon and I don't use it. I just don't remember to. But I feel better, I sleep better. I know the health benefits are there. They're heavily researched and they're correlated to having amazing heart benefits, increase in VO2 max, increase in health, mental health issues with this thing are amazing. In fact, one of my favorite things about the wood-fired nature of the sauna is when I go out in the sauna and I'm burning a wood log, you kind of hear that crackle burn. And for me, it's a very meditative experience. That or I'm listening to a podcast or something. That is the sweat tent. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to click down below, click that like button, leave a comment, leave a question. I get back to almost all the comments. So if you have a question, hit me up. Also, check out my Instagram for daily posts. Sometimes you'll see me using this. Most of the time you see me in the gym. And other than that, I appreciate each and every single one of you. Thank you for watching this video. And remember to always keep your training and your personal health care better, awesome, and badass. I'll see you next time.